I think we're live. Yes. Welcome back, everybody. Please let me know if everything works with the sound, with the audio, visuals.
Yes.
There we go. I'm joined by Sir Eric Chen. This is actually the second time here on my channel, and I just looked it up. We did this interview last a year and roughly 2 weeks ago, which is actually crazy if you think about it, how fast time is going. But you guys came a long way. Also, always happy to have you guys at Cosmoverse, where you also share updates about where you guys stand. I strongly recommend also after this stream to watch your last Cosmoverse presentation, where you also shared some alpha around Project X, for example, that also won the award, by the way, of the most promising project that's coming in Cosmos. So maybe I can squeeze some alpha out of you today. That's my job. But first of all, Eric, thank you so much for joining. How are you? How is everything going on your side?
It's going great. Things have been really busy. A lot of new projects kind of coming on, so we've been, handling all the inbound. And Helix actually recently had a new milestone of hitting $8 billion in cumulative volume, and it's overall the ecosystem adoption has just been picking up overall. So, never busier than ever.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think like especially in bear market times, it's refreshing to see that not everything is collapsing, going to zero, or gets hacked or gets scammed. You guys have been relentlessly focused on building, and I think that's the right thing to do. And it also shows, I'm super active on Twitter, obviously, and it also shows in the community sentiment. A lot of people are very excited about what you guys are doing. You also just announced a giant ecosystem fund for Cosmos. And I think like you guys are also dragging in a lot of people into the Cosmos ecosystem. So yeah, we can talk about a lot of things, but as I said, it's been a year since you've been on the channel. Maybe if you can start off by just sharing some of the major milestone achievements since we last talked and what's been going on in the Injective ecosystem.
Yeah. Of course. So there has been a lot of things that happened, ever since we last talked. First of all, Injective now is kind of targeting or aiming to be the blockchain built for finance, trying to be this like interoperable open layer one blockchain for next generation DeFi applications. That's working on bleeding edge, really cool decentralized spot and derivatives exchanges, prediction markets, a lot of very cool and innovative lending models, and much more. So I think ever since we last talked, there's already been, like I mentioned, $8 billion in cumulative trading volume across Injective exchange apps, most notably on Helix. And recently the block time has been reduced to 1.1 second with a lot of optimizations being done and many more to come. I think 156 or I'll check again, but over 150 million on-chain transactions. And historically, the transaction cost has never exceeded 0.01 cent. So that's been really cool to observe as well. And a lot of work has finally come into fruition. For example, Astroport has announced their deployment to testnet, and very soon on mainnet as well. Recent Wormhole integration has brought on the Solana market and many more to come. And then there's also White Whale, Cito, and all these ecosystem collaborations. Also gone through like quite a few like institutional support and backing as well, with Jump leading the previous round, and supporting the ecosystem fund, and started market making and directly contributing institutional liquidity on top of the Injective exchange ecosystem. And I think recently it's been the $150 million ecosystem fund has been pretty exciting as well for not just for Injective ecosystem, but also for the greater Cosmos and DeFi ecosystem as well.
Yeah, and you just mentioned that with the recent upgrade, you got the block time down to a second or just above a second, which is really cool. Because as far as I know, I think the average block time for tenement-based chains is like 6 to 7 seconds. So can you talk about why that is relevant, why you guys need to be so fast, and how you guys achieved it? You just said it required some efforts to get it done, but how did you guys get it done? And were there any trade-offs? So what were some of the learnings in that process for other chains potentially?
Yeah, certainly. So the goal for Injective is quite simple. It's not trying to be, kind of like this generalized blockchain. It's not trying to address all the possible needs out there. It's very much focused on this financial application vertical, and currently more specifically DeFi applications. So this means that block time or the speed of the blockchain is very, very critical. But what comes before having a very, very fast block time is the stability aspect of it. You want to make sure that the block time and the block production is not only fast, but also very consistent in the time, and on top of that, have 100% perfect uptime and stability. Because we've seen historically, how disruptive and how destructive downtime can be for a lot of these blockchain applications and all these users. From like other blockchains as well, and from other environments. And this is certainly one of the cornerstone and most important aspect of any type of financial application, because like let's say the blockchain has like an unexpected 2-second block time, or let's say the blockchain holds for more than an hour. This means that there's going to be liquidation that happens. This means that people who place order are going to be adversely selected. They don't get to cancel their orders. Basically, it's going to be like an overall disaster. And basically, for the labs team effort, there's been a lot of testing, because theoretically speaking, the Cosmos SDK can perfectly handle a 1 to 2 second-ish block time, and historically, before the recent upgrades, it has been maintaining like a roughly 2-second block time. But what's really exciting here is that we've done a lot of optimizations around the exchange module and the overall kind of implementation across various different stacks, and basically made sure that it can like function extremely well and function extremely stable at the 1-second block time range. And this basically enables after like a extended period of testing and a very, very long period of making sure things don't crash and burn, it was kind of it was at kind of like a confident spot for it to be pushed into production.
Yeah, and right now on the Injective mainnet, there's 50 validators. With the recent upgrade and moving forward, do you think there's any sort of like limit to which you can ensure that speed, the block finality or block time is reached within a second, but you still can expand and like decentralize the validator set, or are there any limits to it in terms of what Cosmos technology, where the barriers are?
No, I don't think so, actually. Basically, like the current implementation of Cosmos SDK can sustain around this level, but there, from the consensus level and the theoretical design of tender ring consensus, you can achieve a much faster block time with some of the more interesting crypto primitive integrations. For example, integrating BLS signatures, et cetera, can definitely significantly boost a block time as well. But on top of that, I think one really important thing to note is that it's not just about churning out blocks as fast as possible, but it's also about the surrounding infrastructure. If you update the block way too quickly, then this means that you're sacrificing some of the most critical infrastructure that Ethereum DeFi developers get to enjoy, and a lot of the critical infrastructures that the users and developers related to financial applications absolutely need. For example, like one of the biggest problem with a fast block time blockchain such as Solana is having a very, very robust and scalable indexer, because basically all these like historical and useful blockchain data needs to be kind of accessed and queried. And when the block time is too fast, or the finality is unstable, this basically means that like the indexer kind of breaks apart, or it basically makes it inviable. And one of the most critical issues here is that most of the users, most of the financial app users, they require streaming, not polling, to access all of these blockchain data, to make sure that it doesn't create unnecessary burden to the overall blockchain ecosystem. So yeah, like it's not just about fast; it's also about stability and all the surrounding technologies, beyond the core blockchain that needs to kind of evolve along with it. So, if people ever think about like, okay, like if the block time is like really, really fast, why isn't, other blockchain or, other like ecosystem following suit? That's mainly because, they have to understand like what they're sacrificing. And more importantly, it's really about like a balance of usability and speed.
Yeah, and you can also see on Map of Zones that Injective is always in the top top 2 or 3 when it comes to IBC traffic and transactions. The most active pair actually in the last 7 days was between Injective and Band. That also has probably to do with some Oracle transactions. But yeah, and I also saw a question here. Nenand was asking about a step-by-step staking video from staking INJ. I think later we can also maybe touch a little bit upon INJ and the native coin and some of its features, because you also have a very cool burn mechanism. When it comes to staking, I think you can just connect your ledger with Kepler, and you can use it directly there. I think that would be probably the easiest. But yeah, at Cosmoverse actually in September, you gave a talk, which is 4 or 5 months ago, and you were also giving a little bit of backstory on where Injective is coming from. And you also walked through the kind of like philosophy of app chains, right? And you just mentioned that Injective is now, you know, kind of like specialized for finance and trading, I guess, and probably also expanding more. I also read that somewhere on the website into like a sector-specific chain. Can you maybe expand on that and what exactly you mean by that and what benefits it brings for you guys?
Yeah, I think like the overall, you know, journey of building and contributing to Injective as an ecosystem, really the vision kind of follows what was being built. And, you know, initially for Injective, core modules, it is like roughly stayed the same. But one of the things that, you know, wasn't being like actualized or what wasn't being you know, heavily explored was, you know, these modules being extensively utilized by applications from, you know, all types of all walks of life and, you know, all types of verticals. And this kind of made us realize that, you know, application specific chain might not be the most kind of accurate description of what Injective is building towards, or, you know, what Injective kind of comes out of the box. And obviously there wasn't really a term for it, so we were kind of like searching for like the app term, or, you know, kind of like loosely fit with like existing frameworks, but we kind of stuck around the concept of, you know, like a sector focused chain or like a sector specific chain, which is, you know, this blockchain that's like focused on a specific vertical. And a lot of these other blockchains have certainly done, you know, very similar things. For example, in the past, like Flow blockchain has been focusing on NFT ecosystem, etc. So for Injective's case, you know, the biggest advantage and, you know, one of the most interesting aspect is that it has a lot of existing integration, and the entire architecture is designed for interoperability, composability, without, you know, sacrificing transaction costs and also speed. And this means that, you know, you have the exchange module that has an on-chain order book with, you know, margining, with, you know, risk isolation, that has been battle tested, that, you know, has been tested time and time again, and that can be shared by all the applications. That can be, you know, be composable with a lot of existing applications, and there are a lot of possibilities being unlocked because of these, you know, fundamental financial primitives. For example, you know, there's been a lot of projects, you know, exploring the concept of a brokerage like account, which is kind of like a margin account, where you get to, you know, move around your collateral, making trades with your collateral, as long as you pass the margin check, borrow against your portfolio, you know, simulate cross margining, global margining, portfolio margining, and really bring that like a centralized exchange margining kind of experience and utility into the DeFi world, which has, you know, never happened before. And with all these things in mind, you know, it's a lot more apt, or it's a lot more accurate to call this, you know, like a blockchain focus on, you know, financial applications, because, you know, it's you know, all these like ecosystem of protocols and dApps that can be built on top of Injective that really makes Injective unique and special.
Yeah, and you guys are definitely first movers when it comes to that. Mainnet is already live since how long? Over a year? Or yeah. So you guys definitely ahead here of the competition. However, competition is not sleeping, right? I also had an interview recently with Say Network. They are set to launch their mainnet also in the next couple of months, and they also want to become some sort of DeFi sector-specific, optimized for trading kind of chain. dYdX is also moving over. How do you view the competition coming up, and do you think there's any differentiator or any kind of like specialization that each of these kind of like ecosystems will find their own niche, or how do you see that evolving?
Yeah, no, I don't see them as competitions at all. I think we're all working towards, like the same type of North Star. And it's all, like the great thing about being in a decentralized ecosystem and being in like a, open financial world is that every single protocol and every single ecosystem can like all like collaborate and work together and interact with each other. And I think, at the current like in the current stance or current landscape, all these ecosystems are also focusing on different things. Like for example, dYdX is focusing very specifically on building the most performant decentralized derivatives platform. Like they're migrating from Starknet onto Cosmos, and I think that's one of the most exciting things for the Cosmos ecosystem as well. And then what Say are building are like quite interesting as well. And we're all kind of gearing and building in like different directions, and really finding our own community. I think that is probably the most important thing. The pie is big enough for like all of us to share, and I think the most important aspect is that you're going to find different applications, you're going to find different community like in all these ecosystems.
I like that mentality, because I think also like in crypto sometimes we have this tribal mindset that it's coin one versus coin B, but the actual battle is versus centralized financial institutions, right? So we still have to fight that battle. But yeah, I really like that. And you mentioned earlier also that interoperability is really a big thing why also you chose Cosmos, and also it's big part of how Injective works, right? So IBC obviously is super active. There's also an existing Ethereum bridge that you guys, as far as I understand, you guys developed in-house, or at least, I don't know if it was somehow linked to the original kind of like Gravity bridge design, but maybe you can explain that. And then also talk a little bit about the upcoming Wormhole integration and what that means.
Yeah, so basically the native Injective Ethereum bridge is actually kind of like this kind of Go implementation of the Peggy bridge, which eventually became the Gravity bridge, and it's actually a very interesting kind of like a phenomenon of decentralized building, where we kind of had like a Go orchestrator that was implemented, shared with the community, because like our stack overall is like much more Go heavy than Rust heavy per se. And this is actually like Umi is working off of the same type of implementation as well, and we've been extremely collaborative, helping each other because we share the same module. And it's actually not upcoming Wormhole integration. Wormhole integration actually went live not too long ago, and I think one of the most exciting stuff is that we first saw a glimpse of this integration with the new like Solana listing on top of Helix, and there are like many more upcoming. I think there's going to be a lot more ecosystems getting connected, not just with Solana and SPL tokens, but all of the Wormhole enabled ones. And you're going to slowly see like all these flows and integrations kind of like trickling down to the greater Cosmos ecosystem, either through IBC, etc., and just seeing like all these communities that might seem like they're like seemingly disconnected, but all in reality they're all like coming together and being collaborative.
Yeah, that's really cool. And yeah, I'm just wondering, you said earlier that Injective is this kind of like DeFi hub or sector specific chain for finance and DeFi products. Talk a little bit about the Injective ecosystem. What are some of the top applications that are currently in production, and how are they built? Are they built as smart contracts on top of Injective, or how does that work architectural wise?
Yeah, there's really a variety of them. I think one of the most exciting one that I'm personally most looking forward to is the upcoming mainnet launch of Astroport deployment on top of Injective, because one thing that Astroport did differently for Injective's case is providing liquidity directly onto Injective order book in their next iteration, and this is probably one of the very first time that you see an AMM protocol contributing and competing with kind of like order book dynamic liquidity and order book flow. And this is not only going to be, very, very helpful for order book liquidity to have a lot more diverse allocation of the book, but also I think more importantly that it also comes back and help the AMM mechanism as well, because it introduces more flow and it helps with a lot more informed flow, because now the AMM is kind of sharing the same type of signal as any type of order book based exchange. And then, existing integration, there's also, Whitewell, which is an energy and flash loan and also arbitrage protocol. That's always been, very, very exciting. And we've seen a lot of really cool interactions already with the existing like Injective dApps. And then I think, obviously Helix is definitely one of the, marquee players. There's also, INJ Exchange, which has been doing like quite amazing work. There's so many to name as well on the exchange application side. QWERTY has, done a very great job in terms of optimizing the user experience by having off-C signature. So like, if you trade on top of QWERTY, one of the coolest thing is that, let's say you're using your ledger or your hardware wallet that's like really, really annoying to sign. You can just make one transaction on top of QWERTY, and then from that point on, all of your trades are point and click. You don't need to sign, you don't need to go through that flow. And it's actually secure because those type of permission granting via off-C only lasts for, you can define how long it lasts. It can be just 30 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or it could be, like up to hours. And yeah, like this is absolutely one of the coolest thing. We envisioned it and, like since day one, but it's really amazing that like someone built it as well. And yeah, like there's just been so many things going on within the ecosystem, let alone like all those that are currently building that I'm not sure they're ready to come into the light yet. But obviously, there's also some really exciting, like kind of innovative new type of application of exchange module, like Frontrunner, which is building all these like cool like sports betting applications. And they were really, really good at tricking their users thinking that they're using a Web2 application, when in reality everything is on chain, everything is decentralized. And there's just been so many things.
Yeah, and I like the Astroport migration. I think that's definitely a big one, right? They were in Terra before, right? And they were like one of the biggest. I just opened DeFi Llama, and like at the peak before the USD DPEC, they had a TVL of $1.9 billion, which is nuts. So yeah, excited to see. Is there any like timeline? I just saw the announcement 2 weeks ago or something where they said they're deploying a testnet. Is there any rough timeline that you can share when they will deploy on mainnet, or what's the state?
I think you're gonna have to do an amen with the Delphi Labs team to get that.
All right, no alpha leaks on that end. But yeah, okay. So and then also I wanted to ask about the hottest and latest on Project X, the mysterious Project X that won the award at last year's Cosmos. What's up with that project?
Yeah, so people are going to learn more about it, this quarter actually, and it has been gone through a very, very extended period of testing, both and modeling from like an academic perspective, but also in like a production perspective. It's actually been secretly tested within the Injective testnet. So like for a lot of people who are like pretty eagle-eyed, you can actually find like Project X kind of like hidden away, like doing its work. And in this quarter, you're going to be expecting Project X finally having a name and coming out with a really, really cool launch. And there's also going to be a lot of variety of activities from early access all the way up to like a full scale, like a testnet on different verticals of what Project X offers. And then on top of that, I think the most exciting part is that it's going to be highly interoperable and composable with the existing applications. And you're going to see the effect of Project X in a really palpable way very, very soon.
There we go. That's cool. So yeah, and I'm always amazed to see how fast everything is growing, not just in crypto, but just within Cosmos, right? And then within Cosmos, you have ecosystems that are just building their own world, right? And their own application, their own user base. And honestly, at this point, I lost overview. Like there's so much going on. It's absolutely great to see. But I think in that context, you also launched a massive initiative to not just fund or like expand the development on Injective, but also for the broader Cosmos ecosystem. So maybe talk a little bit about the massive $150 million ecosystem fund, what that means, and who is involved in that.
Yeah, so that certainly has been a long time coming. Basically, it's initially, we saw a lot of projects becoming interested in the Injective ecosystem, and then, looking for support given the market environment. And then, for us, it was like interesting because we felt like, like they wouldn't have trouble locating like backers for a lot of their really innovative ideas, and a lot of existing investors and institutions that we are familiar with, that we work with, are jumping on the chance to invest into the next really cool application. But that's actually not the case. It's actually very hard for these projects to discover or get connected with a lot of these very supported and very resourceful institutions. So like it essentially became like a very, very urgent need for us to kind of form this consortium, a venture group, where all these really, really reputable, really kind of resourceful and supportive institutions all come together from all walks of life, from both TradFi, DeFi investors, market makers, different types of platforms, to be able to support these projects, very, very directly. And one of the things that we also really want to focus on is that a lot of them are willing to allocate a huge amount of capital, much more than what the Injective ecosystem can initially choose. So very soon evolve into kind of this consortium that focuses not only within the Injective ecosystem, but also for a greater Cosmos and DeFi ecosystem, to being able to support everything that's being built on top of Cosmos, everything that's focusing on or within the vicinity of DeFi, and working on really cool, really innovative applications. So the general structure is like most of these backers have kind of like this like 5-year horizon. Some of them like shorter. This means that they can invest faster, which is a good thing. And then it combines to roughly the amount of 150 million. And basically how it works is that any project can go on the website of injective.com / I think it's, let me check.
The ecosystem or venture group?
Yep.
Venture group. I can
/ venture group. Yeah.
I'll drop the link.
I was trying to paste you the link. And then like they can just go through an application process. It's very, very extensive. You get to showcase a lot of anything that's related to your project, anything you want to show to these institutions, and then it'll be kind of like gone through like a first pass, and then presented to all these venture group members. And then what the members of this consortium can now do is that they can either contribute through the consortium or directly back them. And this means that directly backing is obviously really, really great because they're very resourceful and they're very supportive, and you get to be directly part of their portfolio and receive support in a more direct way than what like an ecosystem fund or a venture consortium could ever do. And this means that like these projects get to kind of get like backing in like a pure capital basis, or very, very direct and very, very intimate support from these investors directly. So yeah, like apply now and start building. And on top of that, there's going to be like a global virtual hackathon that's kickstarting soon. And that's kind of like the first way for the venture consortium to get started and being able to, you get to like meet them. There'll be judges, and if you're working on really cool, innovative things, once you present, they might even back you directly.
That sounds really cool. Yeah. And I think that's also, dragging in a lot of eyeballs into not just Injective, but Cosmos in general, because that's also like sometimes the concern that people have around Cosmos is that there's no coordinated BD efforts, right? if you look at, for example, Avalanche, they landed big names in the past couple months, right? They also have a lot of VC support. So how do you see that? And like, since you guys have these great connections with a lot of also big names and big VCs, what is your sense? Like, what is your feeling? How much do they know? How much are they interested in Cosmos? And like, what's their kind of like standpoint when they look into a crypto ecosystem?
I would say that most of these institutions are more familiar with Cosmos than a lot of the generalized or other monolithic environments, because Cosmos has been around and has been highly disruptive to the space as a whole for years and years. And then on top of that, there's been a lot of really great projects coming out or built on top of Cosmos SDK. And a lot of these existing institutions know the true impact of Cosmos and the promise it brings. So I would say that the investors and the institutions are definitely all caught up on what's so amazing about the Cosmos ecosystem. But I think what's kind of lacking is a lot of these coordination efforts and these type of consortiums for everyone to be able to take a stand, signal their support, and being out there to support a lot of projects building within the ecosystem, rather than putting the responsibility on the builders within the ecosystem to kind of explore, to kind of play dice and see, this investor is really into Cosmos ecosystem, that investor isn't, etc. So yeah, I think like just having general signaling, having general coordination of believers and all the efforts that they can bring on is probably going to be a dimensional reduction strike against other ecosystems already.
There's also a quite big name on the Injective website. If you look at the backed by the best segment, which is Mark Cuban. So how much does Mark Cuban know about Cosmos? What's your relation with him? And can you get him on my YouTube channel?
Sure. We can pass on the words. I mean, like he's actually been surprisingly knowledgeable on the DeFi side, and we go back and forth on a lot of different ideas and concepts within DeFi as well. He's just been very active, and been listening like very diligently into everything that's going on within the space as a whole. Can't say or I'm not 100% certain like he's like super familiar with like the Cosmos ecosystem, etc. But I know for a fact that he has backed multiple projects that are built on top of Cosmos. So it's either like a very nice discovery or it's a great time for education.
Nice. Yeah, I remember like when he got into crypto, he was big time invested into Aave and a big proponent. I think he still is, but then I think he also burnt his hands a little bit on some other things. But yeah, glad to see that he's doing his homework and probably potentially becomes a core cosmonaut. That would be nice. But yeah, I think as we don't have to go too long. It's also Sunday. People are just chilling and hanging out. But maybe before we get into some of the questions, there's some good ones in the chat. Talk a little bit about the INJ token and also the cool burn feature that you guys have. How does that work?
Yeah, so the way the auction burn mechanism works is that all these fees are collected throughout various modules and throughout various DeFi protocols, etc. They're all being aggregated into an auction pool. So all these auction pools every week might contain different types of USDT or any type of assets, etc. I think right now it's predominantly USDT and USDC. And at the end of the week, I think roughly around Wednesday or something like that, the auction or all the assets within the pool will go to the highest bidder that are bidding using the native token INJ, and the proceed from the proceed of the winning bid, which is the INJ token, will be immediately burnt forever, and obviously like the total supply, etc., will be reduced as a result. And this basically ensures that first of all, there's because fees within the financial ecosystem in general is like very important because it prevents a lot of malicious activities. To have basically it's really important to have some level of fee as a gating mechanism. But this is also a way to kind of flow back to the ecosystem to reinforce the value of the ecosystem as a whole. So yeah, like basically, it's a kind of like a deflationary force that scales with the overall adoption and the growth of the applications on top of Injective.
Yeah, and there's a question from Michael in that context, whether USDT will always be the stable coin, but I think you just mentioned there's already different ones, right? Or is it just
there's already USDC?
Okay.
Yeah, it's all about adoption. Like USDT was very popular during the initial launch, and we've seen like increasing interest into making USDC as kind of like the canonical stable coin for the spot assets. And I think one of the most important and amazing or exciting aspect of it is that native USDC is coming to Cosmos. So it really kind of changes things on what the community decides to be the canonical stablecoin.
I want to ask you in that context, as you mentioned it, what is kind of your Cosmos Hub thesis? What do you think about interchain security and all these discussions around that?
I think it's absolutely extremely exciting for all these development, especially around ICS 2.0 or ICS 3.0 mesh security, etc. And then I think the general hub minimalism stance is it makes sense. I think it's a safe stance, given all the crazy environments the ecosystem has gone through as a whole. But I think it's all about balanced innovation. At the end of the day, like Cosmos Hub is one of the biggest, is definitely the biggest zone within the Cosmos ecosystem. So taking careful steps, making sure that they innovate at the right place is definitely considered or needs to be considered.
Is mesh security something that you guys are also exploring to potentially integrate?
Yeah.
Nice. Because there was a big thing last time at Cosmos, right? The Osmosis team and the Juno team, I think they've been working on a prototype. So yeah, let's see how that evolves. There's also another question from Rick, which I've seen a lot. Like when I made tweets that we make this interview, a lot of people ask me like, "Hey, you have to ask about airdrops." So will there be any airdrops for INJ Stakers? Is there anything out there yet?
I think there has been historically a lot of airdrops already. I basically started noticing it like once every few months, once every few weeks actually. So expect the same pace. I'm not 100% sure what is like the exact next one and stuff like that, but I know that a lot of apps and like products building on top of Injective are expected to launch a token or give back to the early supporters. So for sure, I would expect the same.
Any estimate around Project X, whether that's going to have an airdrop or?
Yeah, I have no idea.
I think that's said a lot, but yeah, let's do another question from Nenad Savage. If the SEC goes after crypto project and declares most of their securities, what will happen to INJ? Will the project be able to withstand it?
I think that's a great thing about decentralized ecosystem is that it doesn't really matter for if the ecosystem is truly decentralized, like Bitcoin, like Ethereum, and like Cosmos ecosystem for a lot of blockchains and projects building on top of Cosmos. Unlike dApps, where your governance token might be highly disruptive to the protocol itself. Basically, any type of regulatory action and any type of like compliance effort for the Labs team, obviously, it focuses on trying to adhere to the latest type of policies and guidelines as much as possible. But at the end of the day, Injective as a blockchain is censorship resistant and is permissionless. So the community and the ecosystem will be able to 100% withstand it.
Yeah, and I'm getting this question a lot recently. I think it's also because everybody's brand marked from 2022, which was a horrible year in crypto. So people are kind of scared and cautious these days, which is also fair, of course. There's actually the same question about the security aspect. There's another question from Go Diego around what apps are on Injective and short descriptions. I don't know is there any overview, any site where we can look that up that I can share or?
Yeah, let me see. So first of all, the website is always a good place to start. You get to see the ecosystem tab and check out all the projects building on top of it. There's also, hub.injective.network that has kind of like a featured app list, etc. Yeah, like there's just a lot.
Yeah, I'm just sharing the link here for Diego. Injective.com/ecosystem.
Yep.
There's all the validators, dApps, tooling, exchanges, institutions, interoperability. You can find everything there, which is pretty cool. So yeah, check that out. Then there's another question from DCF. Any DEX margin trading on Injective like GMX or like Bybit's derivative DEX Apex?
There are a few builders that are currently working on it, I believe. So yeah, I think like stay tuned.
There we go. All right, Eric. Thank you so much for sharing all the insights. It's always good talking to you and hearing from you guys. But yeah, looking forward to what's coming up next for you guys. Also looking forward to see you again the third time in a row this year. You guys have been supporting since the first one at Cosmos this year in Istanbul. So looking forward to that. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on. Is there any final thing that people should know? Any final step or where people can get started on Injective?
Yeah, I mean, if you're a trader, use helixapp.com. If you're like a developer, go on injective.com developer. And then if you just want to check out and stay tuned, follow @injective_.
There you go. Thank you, everybody. I hope you have a great Sunday, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Cheers.